Mary Heigert here with Global Waterworks, but actually hosting for Lake County Lake Lovers, where we are hoping to make a difference with our lakes because as we learned with Global Waterworks that there were critical issues with our algae in the Lake County lakes, and we were able to find solutions in India and from some of the people who are on this call, and we're able to start Global Waterworks Lake County Lake Lovers Working Group in 2022 with 12 members, and now we are at 170 members. Our co-chairs Becky Saul and Bill Cody regret they couldn't be here tonight. They may join us for a bit later, but had some family commitments with the holiday weekend. But we are growing and we are delighted to have you here. The reason we are focused on Lake County Lake Lovers is because we believe lakes are what make Lake County great. And we think you would certainly understand that as we hear and talk about our lakes, but the government resources are not responsible for improving the lakes, which were here before they arrived and have many more requirements and many stakeholders, a multitude of stakeholders. So it's sort of challenge to engage everyone who needs to be involved in a lake project. And so we hope to allow for passionate volunteers to come together in the Lake County Lake Lover community to share ideas and to participate in programs like this Zoom. And what we deliver are awareness programs, a means to measure water health, thanks to a program you'll hear about from Xylem. We also are engaging students. There's a May 8th program at Libertyville High School, and we invite public and private donors to partner with us. And they can donate through the Lake County Lake Lovers site. Actually, if you go to Global Waterworks, and if you haven't yet joined the community, you can do so by scanning this QR code and planning on being with us every third Thursday. We have a virtual program, and we will also have a special summer gathering where we invite people to come, learn, and share. And the community itself is online 24/7 and allows you to post stories and to share information about lakes or water in general. And we're very fortunate to have a means to track and measure the quality of our lakes, which you're going to hear a little bit more about today, because some of you may not be familiar with our lakes that we're going to feature. I wanted to point out for Bhaskar, who's in India, and any others who have joined us from further away, our lakes are just north of Chicago. And this little square pulls out Cedar Lake, who will be talking, as well as Loon Lake, who will kick us off. There's a west and an east Loon Lake, and there's about 340 acres of lakes combined there. And Cedar Lake, we'll hear from Alan more about this beautiful lake. Both of them are glacier lakes carved out by the Ice Age time and isolated, so they are not affected by these other chain of lakes activities, and their watersheds are just slightly larger than the lake areas, which provides some advantages in keeping them clean. I want you to all mark your calendars for July 17th. We will be joining together here at oops, did I stop sharing?
No,
What was I?
You're good.
Okay, so you can see.
You're gone.
You're gone now.
Oops.
You're good.
Okay, so you can see the July in-person event?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And you can use this QR code to scan and like it on Facebook. We'll keep you apprised there. If you buy tickets before May 31st, they're $35, otherwise $45. And should be a wonderful evening of stories about the lakes that are participating in our pilots. And all lakes are invited, but anyone who loves a lake is invited. But tonight's program, we have two amazing stories by those people who are guiding their lake associations. And I'm thrilled to introduce, first of all, Mary Lomas, who I met when they had a packed library room talking about the success of their Eurasian milfoil eradication plan, and also their education program that ran alongside that really allowed for them to be successful. So Mary, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can update us on how that worked and how the Loon Lakes Association convenes your stakeholders.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Mary asked me basically to kind of go over how we accomplished our our treatment on our lake. So I just wanted to start by giving you a little bit overview of our organization. We have, like Mary indicated, we have 2 lakes that are joined together via a channel, and we have 13 board members on our association, management association. We are funded $50,000, and that's been that way since the beginning of time. It has no increase every year. So that's just to maintain the lakes, pay for people to harvest and insurance and things like that, maintenance. So when we run into an issue, we don't have any disposable funds to solve other issues beyond our regular budget. So you can go to the next one, Mayor. So the issue that we had was an invasive weed, which is called Eurasian water milfoil, which we'll be referring to as EWM. And this is very problematic because it is resistive to harvesting, and through the years it's become resistive to chemical treatment, and it grows up the water column and across the water column, basically creating thick masses. And so our lake on the east was about 2/3 of the perimeter of the lake, perimeter area of the lake was covered with this, and about 1/3 in the west. And it was to the point where it was dangerous, actually dangerous for swimming. And it was interfering with boating and fishing, and native plants were getting choked out. Beaches were being closed because we have certified beaches in our area, and the plant would just lay across the top of the water, and the geese would just poo on top of the plant, and it would just sit there. So it became a safety issue from a swimming standpoint in terms of getting caught in it, and then also in obviously swimming in it. And then when it dies down, it obviously adds to the eutrophication of the lake with the increased muck that was created when it died off. And we had been treating this probably for about 5 years, and it basically just became resistant. So it was not effective to do it that way anymore. So the challenge is the invasion of the problem that we had was that we had to get rid of this Eurasian water milfoil, and we didn't have a budget to do it. We did find a solution that specifically targeted only Eurasian water milfoil, which was great. The problem is there's really only 2 ways to get rid of this currently. That is by a lot of lakes in the world that have this weed. You actually use scuba divers to go down and hand pick it out, and that's extremely expensive. The only other chemical treatment that's available is this Priscillacor treatment, which is relatively new and is very expensive. So it was going to cost $140,000 to treat about 400 acres. And so we had to come up with a plan how we were going to do that. And this is our budget that you see here. The first 2 line items are grants that we got from stormwater management. And the first one was for the chemical treatment. That's called the WMB grant. And the second one is the MAG grant. That is basically an educational grant. So we use that educational grant. If you take 400 volunteer hours times $30 an hour, that's where you get the $12,000. So we had to provide 400 hours minimum of education within our community about the lakes, the watershed, anything they had to do with our lakes and their watershed were counted towards those 400 hours. And then we had to document those hours. And then that's how then the Stormwater Management Commission, they would provide us with the funds, the matching funds on that. So they provided us $12,000 for that. Then we had individual and HOA donations. We had 13 HOA around our lakes. And we also, that some of those HOAs actually made donations, and then we had individuals make donations. And then we had fundraisers, like we sold hats and T-shirts and things like that, fish derby. So that was the rough budget that we did.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I just want to point out to everyone who's wondering when they apply for matching grants that those volunteer hours can be used as the match. So if you know you have that labor, now I think it's $32 an hour.
Oh, yeah, it's
But
gone up. Yeah, it's
mhm,
gone up.
yeah, so great. Mayor, very impressive to have that diversified resource.
So, yeah, so what we did was we used the education portion to kind of create a movement. We developed a group called Steward of the Lakes, whose role was to educate the community on the best practices for the lake management and to help import the importance of individuals' impact on the lake. No matter whether you are a homeowner on the lake or a homeowner 3 blocks or 5 blocks or within the watershed. So this is a little map of what we considered was how to create a movement. And the first one was that we are the they. You have to have ownership. And this is an all volunteer organization. And we would constantly have people coming up and saying, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about this? And we always reiterate, what are we going to do about it? We are the they. And then the next thing is you need a hook. And we were very fortunate in that we had the hook because we needed the education hours in order to get the funds. So people were, and this comes into the importance of framing, I believe, the problem, because our view was, the issue was, from our standpoint, is the health of the lake. Well, most people on the lake weren't really concerned about the health of the lake. They were concerned about swimming and boating and fishing. They have limited time. They come up here. A lot of people come here just for the summer, and they want to enjoy the lake for recreational purposes. So we tried to frame the hook around their requirements, very much around their requirements. Then we had, we recognize that we all have an impact. This is you can go to the next one, Mayor.
Okay.
So we also, this is just a picture right here. This is kind of interesting. You found this one, Mary. This is a picture of the Eurasian water milfoil coming out of the lake. And this is a person that lives in a channel, and they actually hand pull theirs before we had the chemical treatment. So again, the framing of the problem is really important. And sometimes we get really tied up into what our needs and what we want to do and what we want to accomplish, and we forget to understand where everybody else is in the community is at and what they really care about. So you can go to the next one, Mayor. So the first thing we did is before we got the treatment, we went around a year before and we got pledges. We went door to door, and every one of those directors requested volunteers in their neighborhood to go knock door to door, because everybody understood this was a problem, and ask them, if they would be willing to pledge a dollar amount for treatment on the lake, assuming that we could come up with the funds. And everybody knew that it was $140,000 to treat it. So that really helped, because a lot of people said, there's no way that we're going to get the 140,000. So sure, I'll give you a pledge. So a lot of people said, yes, we want to really solve this and we'll give you a pledge. So we got people to go, and when your neighbor is asking you, it's a lot better than somebody else asking you. And we just said, basically, we needed everybody. So we ended up with 20 core volunteers, 13 HOA board members that were on the board at LLMA that drove those neighbor to neighbor discussions. And we did reinforce the key messages that it was proven, it was effective. We had volunteers that went to Sand Lake. It's another lake around here that have previously used the chemical treatment because there's a lot of resistance to chemical treatments within a community usually. People are afraid of it, right? And we went there, we had volunteers that actually went there and they went to a bar and they sat down and talked to some members from there about their experience with the chemical treatment and its effect on the wildlife and the fish and everything like that. So we basically went through that. We also had them volunteer we did research on any place in the country that had used the Priscillacor treatment, and we contacted them, and we had a sheet that had the Priscillacor facts and testimonials from those people. And then we had Lake County Health Department Environmental Services help us also with the educational aspect on that, helped us gather the materials. And we had to get approval from a lot of agencies, the IDNR, the Lake County Health Department, the local government, the Forest Preserve, because the Forest Preserve owns quite a bit of land within our 2 lakes. So we got the individual we got the individual pledges, which you saw pretty much ended up being the difference in the budget that we originally showed, about $87,000, I believe it was. Next, Mayor. The results were we had no Eurasian water milfoil in 2023, and in 2024, the beach closings went from 37 in 22 to 0 in 23. And the average meeting attendance increased from 5 to 30. Those meetings, we had guest speakers just like Mary has at your Lake Lovers meetings. We had different guest speakers. We had attendance of 180 people over a 6-month period of time at those meetings. And we had 29 core community members that volunteered, and we actually ended up with over 600 hours instead of 400 hours. We did use social media. We had one of our people was in charge of that, and they came up with a Friends of Loon Lake Facebook group, had a Nextdoor app. They used those as well as our original webpage from our organization. And we worked with the Lake County Health Department, the Lake County Forest Preserve, and the Coast Guard Auxiliary. So those were the results of a lot of work by a lot of different people. 600 community hours in 6 months is a lot of time. And the only way you can do that is with help from a tremendous amount of different people. So just
I think that's a beautiful thing that you did. There are members on this call who are working to do the same thing for their lakes or for Lake County Lake Lovers to curate all of the content that you found, Mary. So that's
yes.
an excellent example of how to get more done more quickly by partnering.
Yeah, we did, besides guest speakers, we did a newsletter. We did a mailer to the people that weren't within the lake, but were within our watershed. So we pretty much, the only thing we didn't do that we really try to do, so I'm interested in hearing what you guys are doing, is the high schools. We contacted College of Lake County, but we didn't get a big, we couldn't find who we had to navigate to help to work with there. So,
Yeah,
so that's basically, we just figured that the keys to our success was by creating excitement around it, that everybody had ownership in it, and everybody had a part. We had people in our neighborhoods that, they went back to their individual groups and said, hey, who's good in marketing? Hey, who's good at this? Can you do a brochure? So that really helped getting everybody involved, and it made people passionate. And then the educational part kind of goes full circle. And then once people get involved and then they start learning more and seeing the impact that they can have and that they do have on the lakes individually and as a community, it makes a big difference. And then the
go ahead.
last thing was just to celebrate the results.
Mary, can Mary answer some questions? Is it a reasonable time for them?
Sure, we can have a few questions. I just want to make sure we have Alan present and thought that we'd keep the questions at the end. Is there something really relevant to what you just said, Jim? Go ahead.
It would be good after each speaker. Um, One of the things that's unique about the Loon Lakes is you've got endangered and threatened fish species that are there.
Correct.
That being the case, the Department of Natural Resources has to be part of the business of helping to manage the lake.
That's correct.
One of the problems historically for Loon Lake has been the upstream watershed. And I'll presume that it has been converted by the Forest Preserve District into forest preserve. So the question becomes, what is your upstream watershed look like these days?
The forest preserve, and I just want to make sure, because I'm not a technical person, that I'm understanding correctly, Jim, when you're talking about upstream, you're talking about the water that exits out of our lake.
No, water that comes into your lake from upstream.
Oh, the water that comes into our lake from, okay, yes. Our water is fed by Sun Lake, which is the Forest Preserves owns that.
Okay, Sun Lake is for the rest of you, Sun Lake is a small, very deep lake that's got very unique uh, uh, root aquatic plants and is very tiny. So it's not a very big upstream lake. The rest of your watershed is Forest Preserve District.
That's
So one
correct.
of the things that you are benefiting from is the character of your upstream watershed. Second item is you indicated that the previous herbicide that you used was no longer effective. What had you been using in the past?
I believe it was 242D,
2,4-D?
4D, 24D, yeah. And
Okay.
individual, part of our problem is because our lake is a little bit unique because homeowners own the lake bottoms in our lake. And so part of the problem that we were having is a lot of people were individually treating around the lake. And
Yeah,
we
that's
can't really
unfortunately
control that.
that's not uncommon.
Okay, because we can't really control it because they own the lake bottom. So
Yeah, and
uh,
the last question is, how long is your treatment supposed to last? You've gone through 2 years,
right.
but are
And
you going to have to come back and treat again?
yeah, that's a good question, Jim. We actually are getting the treatment comes with a warranty, a 3-year warranty. And they actually are checking every year to check to see if it's coming back, and it has come back this year. And so they're retreating this year because it's covered by the warranty. And then also Sun Lake that you brought up before that feeds into us, that lake had a real bad Eurasian water milfoil problem as well. And the Forest Preserve actually treated Sun Lake this past year. So we're hoping that that will, be helpful for us in that a lot of it won't be coming into our lake via that way. But it is it is costly. And a lot of the lakes that we checked, like Sand Lake, it was about 5 years before they saw anything come back. And then it was just spot treating. And I believe they were spot treating with 2,4,2-D then.
Something that's very important to convey to everybody is there are some lakes in Lake County that are very special. Loon Lake happens to be one of them. They're part of a cluster of lakes that contain endangered and threatened fish species for the state. So there's fish species there that are not in other lakes, and they wind up being important. Interestingly enough, so is Cedar Lake.
Yes.
So we have two of the lakes that have endangered and threatened fish species that are critical to preserve. They are they are present in Lake County. They're not widespread. And so it is important to be able to manage the lake with an eye to preserving those fish species.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the IDNR was required to sign off on it and approve it. And we've seen basically a much better fish population as a result of getting rid of the Eurasian water milfoil.
What do you mean by better fish population?
It's more abundant, it's more variety, and we've also had native plants are now coming back.
Yeah, the native plants wind up being very important, and that's an example of something that, as you go through time, make certain to track that to see what's coming back and to try and give it an edge by comparison with the milfoil.
Well, gosh, great insights, Jim and Mary. Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to have a success story like this to share, and also to have the expertise of everyone in the county. But Jim is a lifetime achievement recognition recipient from last year for Lake County Lake Lovers. Actually, he's lifetime achievement winner. So, thank you, Jim, for lending your expertise across 40 years of establishing lake management in Lake County. So.
Yeah, thank you, Jim.
Yeah. And I just your program, Mary, brought to mind a program called community-based social marketing, which we talk about in the Global Waterworks community. And I just wanted to reference it. And also the source is used by the Department of Energy. They're used by the EPA in establishing how do we change behaviors. And these tools might be useful for everyone. So I wanted everyone to have access and know that, if you can select the behaviors you want to promote, engagement or fundraising or awareness of invasives as you had, and then identify the barriers. They don't have time, they don't have the knowledge, or they may not know how to get involved, and develop strategies and then pilot test those as you did. And reaching out, I think your beautiful network, Mary, with 13 different homeowner associations, and I think you said you had 29 core volunteers, was really a wonderful way to expand your capabilities. But your leadership, I know, impacted the success of that very much. And finally, in that CBSM community, they have examples you can use to show people the before and after options and ways to engage citizens and make them more aware of natural shorelines and ways to avoid erosion, reduce pollution, increase engagement at all levels. And I hope those and many other tools are in the community and Global Waterworks, but we also invite your additions to that community, as we are getting tonight with Alan Heigert, who is a new pilot participant in our program. And Alan just energized us all when he shared his enthusiasm for starting an organization based on what they saw as an opportunity to come alongside their own Cedar Lake. So Alan, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mary. And I just want to tell you, Mary Lomas, that was very impressive. I really appreciated hearing all the efforts going on in your lake. We're part of the same system,
Yes.
part of the Sequoia Creek flowage that into the Fox River. And we're at the very top, the very head of that. And let me give you a little description like Mary did of our lake. We've got a 300-acre lake. It is, as Loon Lake is a glaciated lake. We do not have any flowage into the lake. Well, we do have just runoff into the lake, but no stream into the lake. And so it's primarily fed by rainwater, and we have three identified springs of Lake Superior water, I understand, that feed our lake. So of that flowage. And we also are very lucky to have not have a lot of homeowners around the lake. Lucky in one sense, unlucky in another is that we don't have as many people to draw upon. But there's only about 60 homeowners around our lake.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and we also there's a portion of the lake that the DNR owns, and then Ellendale services takes up a fairly sizable portion of our lake. And in the village, and then we have railroad tracks and the state highway on the other side. So, and we only have about 700 acres of the water come into the lake, the watershed, I'm trying to say. So we're really fortunate that we don't have a lot of contaminants coming into it. As a result, we have been rated over the years to be the #1 lake in Lake County, the cleanest, most biodiverse. And it's good to hear what you said, Jim, about having some species. We have some plant species that are special here too. I personally have lived on this lake for about 7 years. About 3 years ago, I got sort of railroaded into being the head of the HOA by accident, and I never aspired to be that. And we have only 6 homeowners in our HOA that live on the lake. Okay, we only have about 50 homes in the HOA. We have one other HOA in the area, and from that vantage point, I took a more of a keen interest in the lake. The 2022 was the year that the environmental services did their report on our lake. In reading that, it showed that there was some stress to our lake as opposed to the report that had come out about 7 years earlier. So um, I was working for about a year to try to get enough momentum to get a presentation of that report to our area. And finally, by going to village meetings, teamed up with the village, and they've become a very good partner with us. Um, by the way, I want to mention we have some people from Cedar Lake here tonight, Gene and Mike Ridgway, who are two of our citizen scientists who are part of the pilot project, and Diana Bush is our senior scientist. So if you have anything to add to what I'm saying, please do. The what we have in terms of issues is an overpopulation of geese is one of the first things that has really motivated us around the lake to do something, because the geese in the years that I've been here have increased exponentially. I think that's probably a regional problem, and so that became sort of a focal issue. And when the report, the lake report presentation occurred, I think we had real consensus that we needed to come together around that issue in particular, along with several others. Um, we also have Eurasian milfoil in our lake, and the curly leaf pondweed in our lake, and we have the um, zebra mussels have invaded the lake. So these are all contaminants and things that we want to mitigate. We also, the lake was always known as a good fishing lake, but it's become much less so over the years. Fish are very small and there's no real predatory fish, so we are looking to do something about that. We also have carp in the lake that we need to get rid of, and there's erosion and sedimentation in the lake that's increased over the years. Could you go to the next slide, Mary? We're in the middle right now of a geese mitigation program. Mike Ridgway, who's on the call here, has been one of the people going out in his boat trying to harass our geese and trying to get rid of them. Every goose, every mature goose has the capability of putting 3 pounds of feces into the lake a day. Uh, Lots and lots of phosphorus feeding our lake, and so we too have the aquatic plants, especially the invasives, have really choked our lake. Sometimes it's hard just to get a boat in the middle of the summer through the lake because of that. So what you've been doing, Mary, on Loon Lake, I imagine there's something like that in our future as well. But our first attempt is to try to limit the phosphorus in the lake that's coming by way of the geese. Last summer, when we first started to do something, our beach that had always been closed a few times during the summer was not closed once. We're on the north side of the lake, but the other side of the lake, the beach over there, had never been closed, had been closed more than ever. So that became an incentive for the other side of the lake to join forces with us this year to try to do something whole lake and keep the geese off. We just did egg addling of our when we had identified the nests. We found 41 nests on the lake and about 250 eggs that were addled. So we're hoping to limit the amount of goslings on our lake and continue to try to discourage geese from living on our lake. Um, We've collaborated with the village on a grant through ComEd. We've sort of expanded beyond that because the village had asked us to participate with them to do a grant that ended up being a plan for a pollinator garden, which is not exactly what our mission was to begin with, but we are environmentalists, okay? And this all feeds into the same ecosystem, and we're just trying to be good partners with the village. Who are really excited about the hopes of getting that grant. We're going to have a presentation at our next meeting on May 6th. And I know Mary Beth was introduced earlier as coming and living in Lake Villa. I hope you can make that meeting, Mary Beth. We'll be talking about lakeshore buffer zones and trying to create healthy ways of decreasing sedimentation or decreasing the erosion that's going on around the lake and the sedimentation from that. And Jean Ridgway here is our publicist who's on the call tonight, and she's managing getting information into the village Facebook and the newsletter and all to try to let people know what we're doing. So maybe you can go to the next slide, Mary. Okay. Now were selected, we were very, very pleased to be selected as one of the one of the lakes with the pilot program with Lake County Lake Lovers. And as I was telling Mary, that I think the being awarded that grant and being brought in as a participant in that has given us additional momentum because the two things that we're really looking to do is really help people feel as if we have agency, that we can really do something. And this creates an opportunity to do much better monitoring of our lake. And this has been a godsend to us, Mary Heigert. I really appreciate the County Lake Lovers This was the last measurements. Diana Bush is on the call. She could speak to this in a way I cannot. But I think one of the things that you might notice on here is the Secchi in inches, 156 inches is actually, I believe, 13 feet of clarity we have in our lake at the deepest part of the lake,
That's good.
which
That's good.
which is impressive, okay?
Mm.
And we want to keep it that way. And so, and then if you could go to the next slide, Mary.
Yeah. And did Diana want to say anything about this,
Yeah,
or
Diana, would you
Jim
want?
Jim Bland about you are ranked, both Cedar Lake and Loon Lakes are among the top 20% of lakes in Lake County. Very.
Yeah, I'm well aware of the character of Cedar Lake, and one of the things that folks in Cedar Lake should be aware of is I did work with Dr. Willink from the Field Museum and from the shed in terms of assessing the fishery in Cedar Lake. It was also part of my project in terms of restocking some of those fish from Cedar Lake into Prairie Crossing to create what amounts to the first sanctuary for endangered and threatened fish species in Illinois. So Cedar Lake was part of that. The high clarity that you get is because you have very small watershed, and you have very little phosphorus coming in from the watershed itself. You may have a fair amount of phosphorus coming in from the geese. And I have worked with Dr. Sonnenberg, and fortunately, I cannot recommend you going forward with what he might suggest, which is a treatment to try and deal with the zebra mussels. One of the things that I was part of is doing identifications of zebra mussel veligars as part of this early program. The EarthTech chemical is a copper-based chemical, and it will have the ability to kill not only zebra mussels, but also some of the algal forms that might exist in the lake as it exists right now. So my suggestion to you is you need to be very careful about that. Past that, it has not only you need to be sensitive to what might be happening with zebra mussels. You need to look for freshwater mussels in the lake to find out what sort of freshwater mussels you have right now. The likelihood is that giant floaters are in the lake, and before you do any treatment for a mollusk control, you need to know what sorts of mollusks you have. And it is important to look to try and preserve not only the fish, but also the and it's terrible, I've forgotten the name of the one particular endangered and threatened plant species that you have. It will come back.
The dart minnows, the dart minnows.
The different sorts of quote minnows that you have include blunt nose, pardon me, not blunt nose, but rather black nose shiner, black chin shiner, banded killifish, and Iowa darters. And you have some other sorts of darters as well. Before you do major things with your fishery, I absolutely encourage you to work with the health department concerning any sort of stocking that you consider, because you have to consider the fact that you are a lake that's got a very special ecology, different than other lakes in Lake County. So it is important to continue to get a little bit more of the natural history associated with your lake before going too far forward do depend on the health department. I am in the years that I have worked with the health department, they are as good right now as they have ever been. It's a very, very good and substantial group that I highly recommend. I, I, I think it's appropriate to listen to what Dr. Sonnenberg has to say, but I cannot recommend the sort of molluscicide that is associated with it when you have a molluscan fauna in your lake.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. And we are being very careful and we're taking sort of baby steps. We're only a 6-month-old group here, okay?
Yeah.
We're just trying to get our act together. And our biggest challenge, I think, is sustaining the momentum we have at the moment, okay? These are pictures Diana Bush is demonstrating for some of our citizen scientists. We had like 10 in total out on the lake that very first day of testing. There were 4 with Diana this last time. Mike on the call was with out on the boat the last time. And so we've some people have taken a real good interest in and are committed to doing the lake monitor.
Oh, I highly recommend that type of interest. That's absolutely the sort of thing that the stewards of our lake need to be able to do. So good going with that, and
Okay.
keep teasing through alternatives that you might have.
Yeah.
And Cedar Lake is a beautiful lake. The idea that it has a relatively natural watershed, and the watershed is small, and it's a headwater lake, is one of the reasons that you survive as well as you do.
Mhm.
And so it has a very long history. And if I remember properly, it even is mentioned in a document about Lake County lakes that was written close to 100 years ago.
Okay. And 100 years ago, this is a map of the lake. Okay, this is shows a lot more vegetation around the lake than we currently have. And with you see all the rushes around that. Our island also in the middle of the lake is about half that size currently. It's being eroded away. So that's another one of our challenges is to stop the erosion on that island. So,
And the fish species actually distribute themselves in different ways around lake edges and around the islands. And the island is a place where you had Iowa darters.
hmm,
That was the only place we found Iowa darters, is right around the perimeter of the island.
hmm.
So maintaining it is a great idea.
Yeah, we're hoping to do buffer zones. I think I'm probably running out of time here, Mary, but one of the things that you were asking is about, how we've been doing. We've been getting a lot of people that really have been coming to the meetings. Our last meeting had about 20 people at it. Okay,
It was
and
very energizing, Ellen, and you shared some tips on organizing with PowerPoint and how you appoint people. Yeah, if you could just speak to that, I think everyone can benefit.
Sure, sure. The first thing, of course, is just sort of getting a realistic objective going. But in terms of just organizing, it's just really important, I think, to be really inclusive and welcome people and identify or acknowledge the contributions of everybody. It's really important to have people feel like they are actually doing something, not just coming to a meeting and spending time there and listening to somebody, but being involved. So we right now are sort of forming teams. We've got the team that's really dealing with the goose problem. We've got the water quality monitoring that's happening. So some people that were not involved in other things have gotten involved in that. We do have some people looking into fish stocking. I take what Jim said to heart that we have to be really careful about that. We'll be discussing that at our meetings, and working with the county around anything we intend to do with that. And then we have another group that is really looking into buffer zones and plantings around the lake. We're going to have a presentation about that at our next meeting. So, and we've been getting speakers in. Mary came in and spoke the last time, which was really, really helpful to help everybody understand what the pilot program is about. I think that we try to encourage the sense of stewardship. We sort of gauge, what the people are interested in so that they can be involved in something that is of real interest to them. And I think that momentum we have, I hope we can keep that going.
Yeah,
So.
it's a beautiful thing. And I encourage anyone to go to Alan's meetings just to observe the level of engagement. As he said, people are in specific roles, they have specific reports. He's not a micromanager, he's a encourager, and you also know how to delight people in your lake, Alan, with these beautiful pictures. You want to share anything more on?
Well, this is for my property. Okay, this is looking at a sunrise over Cedar Lake. And so it was such a beautiful color that day, that I included these pictures. We've been including some pictures with PowerPoints. That's another thing in our meetings. We've just done actually in-person meetings so far. And I think that's been a real contributor to building a sense of community and engagement. As much as meeting as we're doing tonight is wonderful, and I'm involved in other groups that I lead and am part of that use Zoom to meet, and that's very convenient. But if you're trying to grow something, you almost need people rubbing elbows, people being able to chat. Mary observed after the meeting, we had a hard time getting the meeting, everybody out of the space because the library was closing and they were saying we had to leave, because people were talking, neighbors were talking to neighbors.
It was so
So,
lovely, the community you established. And Ellen also shared a model for just neighborhood management where he was in Mundelein, and they all set up a potluck, and then they agreed that they would share a ladder or share a snowblower, and how we can do much more together as community when we volunteer these resources. So I've learned so much, Ellen, from just observing your leadership. So thank you. And
yeah.
speaking of that, our leaders are here. Becky and Bill, now online, are co-chairs of Lake County Lake Lovers. If anyone had any questions, I mentioned raise your hand or put it in the chat, and if we don't address it, we'll get to it after. But Becky, you unmuted and love to have a few words as you observe this.
I'm just really thrilled and proud of both of these lakes and these lake stories. You guys are on fabulous paths, and we're here cheering you on. Your stories help other lakes to follow in your footsteps. So thank you for the energy and the time that it took to prepare tonight. Thank you, Mary, for all your fabulous efforts to make tonight be possible and to have it be so polished. And I'm just delighted. It's really exciting.
It is really exciting. And Bill's there with Great Bass Lake behind him. So, Bill, you want to comment on any?
Well, I'm sorry I'm late to the meeting. We had a little dog emergency this afternoon, but the puppy's doing okay. Um, I would like to say that, our organization is growing very, very quickly, and we have a lot of organic growth. But at the same time, when we have over 160 members, we have $0 in our pocketbook. And I think we're all looking for this to continue because it's a great organization. But at the same time, I'm now in charge in fundraising, and I would like to ask all of you to somewhere along the line join us on that July 17th uh, occasion and come in and see what we're doing at with Lake Stories and come and donate some money. We are needing money for our water quality program because the equipment and the reagents and the chemicals that we are using are not something that lasts forever. So please, if you see something in your pocketbook to donate to us, we'd love to have any money that would come towards us. Thank you.
Yeah, and last November at our annual meeting, which we invite you all to save on your calendar the third Thursday, Bill actually gave a donation, which another member of the committee later said, by the way, I felt so guilty I had to step up too. So or follow the leader. He does what he says, and we are a nonprofit, yes, and you can donate through globalwaterworks.org, and just note it's for lake lovers. There's an option when you complete your donation. But we also the time that you give. We do record these meetings for education, and we have volunteer opportunities. I mentioned May 8th, we are doing a program with the Libertyville High School, which has needs for chemists and water quality experts. A few of you have already volunteered for that. And we have a need for youth who are involved with water, who could talk to the students on the following day, Friday. They have all of the classes. They have about 800 students who come out for this lake day. But if you know of any young grads who have taken on a water business or who are working in this area, let us know. I'll put my email in the chat, but also we hope you'll join us in Lake County Lake Lovers. And we are at the top of the hour. I didn't see any other questions, or did anyone have a comment? I want to welcome some new names here, James Esperson and Luis Vasquez. You just unmuted and you had a specific interest here. So you want to comment on that, Luis? Luis saw the article in the Daily Herald and wrote to the editor. So, Luis, maybe you could share your interest.
Well, yes.
Buenas noches. Yes, he is a retired teacher and he wants to add to the pilot. So we're going to figure out a way for Loon Lake to get access to the instruments that we have. And I think any other issues or interests that you all have, I hope you'll just chime in the community. And Bhaskar did ask a question, how much sediment is going into the lake? You heard about the goose activity. And I see Mary Beth waving her hand. So Mary Beth.
Just what time and location of May 6th meeting at Lake Villa?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that the Lake Villa
Ellen,
Village?
yes, that's
Is
at
that
the
the village?
library.
Okay.
Ellen, you're muted. You're on.
Okay, I'm sorry.
There.
Yeah, we're at the Lake Villa Library, Mary Beth.
Okay.
It's the first Tuesday of the month we're meeting. So it's May 6th, 7 p.m. Okay. And we'd love to have you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Very well run meeting like this. And Dan, thank you for joining from Countryside. Thank you all. Mary,
I had a
Stacy,
question, Mary.
oh, go ahead, Dan. Yeah.
Will the two presentations be available for us to download or look at?
Yes, with my husband's help, he joined the call, so he's going to help me edit.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
we'll post them up. Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Just like the Away with Geese. And
And
they're
Mary,
all
I would love to hear from Bhaskar in India and his interests.
yeah,
So I'd
great
love to
comment.
hear-
He's a lake expert. So Bhaskar, please share what your observations are on this. And it is the top of the hour, so anyone who has to leave, we wish you a very happy holiday weekend, and thank you for joining. But if you want to stay, and we invite your joining in and hearing. Bhaskar is an expert on lake phosphorus and nutrient reduction, so I hope he can unmute. He may have stepped away.
We can ask him to unmute, Mayor.
Yeah, I just did. Let me see. The thing. He's not unmuting. It was early morning for them. So I think before we end, just if you could join me in an applause for Mary and Alan and their leadership of their groups. I just think it is just so wonderful to see such great success and such beautiful lakes, and we hope to. I encourage everyone to go up to that part of the county. I've been so. Dale and I had dinner there the other night, and it was just beautiful reflections on Deep Lake.
Oh, yeah.
So, so well, I will ask Bhaskar if there were any questions, but we do have a video that's coming up with the team here sharing their ideas with India, which was very energizing. The folks from India really enjoyed hearing about the coordination around the lakes. So we'll post that to YouTube soon. And then Mary Beth, you can hear a little bit more about their perspective. So, well, hearing nothing else, I just thank you all and wish you a wonderful weekend. And we will put these recordings up and invite you to join us in the community, and mark your calendar for July 17th, where we'll hear more of these stories.
Thank you,
Night,
Mary.
everyone.
Thank you.